psychopath sitting next to you.
So hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to be talking about a anime called Star Wars Visions, which is a Disney Plus original Japanese anime. So let's just get started. So episode 1. So episode 1 was done by a studio named Kamike's Doga, and I'm just amazed by the style of this episode, as it was an episode which had been done fully in 3D and 3D CG animation, and it looked amazing with the black and white coloring. It also had a very unique manga art style, and remember, a manga art style has literally never been done successfully in 3D animation. So kudos to this underrated studio who did make the JoJo openings, the first 3 CGI openings for JoJo, for such a great experience. And if you like samurai stuff and Star Wars, then this episode is definitely for you. So episode 2. So episode 2 was honestly not that interesting, and it wasn't that good either. And no hate to Studio Colorado, but the animation was also kind of lacking. But I still like the light and bright colors of this episode, as it provided some nice and positive vibes at the end. Even though I like the more dark and disturbing stories, but yeah, I like this. I like that this episode was still not a bad episode. So yeah, it's worth a shot. Give it a try, please. Episode 3. So episode 3 was done by the already well-known studio called Studio Trigger, and this episode was just really awesome, as it had great animation, art, and voice acting. Plus you can tell that this was made with true passion, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the staff members were on drugs while making this episode, as their imagination just went absolutely rogue. Episode 4. So episode 4 was done by a studio called Kinema Citrus, which is the same studio that made The Rising of the Shield Hero. And I think that this episode was a good episode, but it didn't really have anything special like episode 1 and episode 3, but it was still better than episode 2, to be honest. And I really liked the art style, and it told a different kind of story compared to what you would expect from a normal Star Wars movie or series. So if you like more calm but still actiony like stories, then this episode is for you. Episode 5. So episode 5 was made by the already well-known studio called Production IG, which is the same studio behind Haikyuu and many other animes. And I think that this episode was actually really well made, and I also really liked the plot twists in this episode, and I like the animation as well, and I definitely recommend this episode to classic Star Wars fans, especially fans who like the original trilogy, Star Wars episode 4, 5 and 6. Not in the series, the movies, okay, you weirdos. Episode 6. So episode 6 was made by a studio called Science Saru, who are known for having a pretty questionable art style, but still pretty great animation. And this episode was honestly great because it had a great story, and a good story, sorry, which has potential to expand, and it had some great animation, and it was really cheery, and it was a really cheery and happy episode. So if you want some happy and cheery vibes, if you're a depressed little guy, then I think that you will enjoy this episode a lot. Episode 7. So episode 7 was done by Studio Trigger, which is the same studio that did episode 3 of Star Wars Visions. And I think that this episode was actually really well done. And by watching this episode, a lot of people may not agree with that. But the thing is that if you look at episode 3 and this episode, even though they are done by the same studio, they have a completely different style. As episode 3 was very action-packed, loud and colorful, whereas this episode was very dull with practical action, was quiet and darkly colored. So I think that if you guys pay attention to episode 3 and this episode, then I honestly think that you will see how imaginative Studio Trigger really is about their projects. Episode 8. So episode 8 was made by Giro Studio, and I honestly really liked this episode, not just because of the story, art and animation, but it's also because of the beautiful landscapes, lighting and the backgrounds. And I hope that you guys watch this episode with a pair of concentrating eyes, and just focus on the beautiful visuals in this episode. And all I'm going to say about the story is that it is a short story about idealism versus change that tears apart a once happy family. Episode 9. So episode 9 was made by Science Saru, which is the same studio that made episode 6. And I think that this episode is the kind of episode which has a pretty questionable art style, and it doesn't have any great animation as well. But I like how the moral of the story is that if you can't beat them, then you have to join them. And I think that this is another great episode to experience. So overall, I think that this series was a great show, and I honestly think that it's way better than any Star Wars movie or series in existence. Also, I actually hate Star Wars, but this series was just so awesome. So I rate this Star Wars anime a big fat 8.6 out of 10. And I highly recommend that everyone watching this should just sit on their butt and just binge this magnificent anime. So I hope, thank you guys for watching this shitty video. And I'll see you guys next time. So peace out.